The Baker's Dozen, one of the best podcasts that you will find out there. One of the best non-Melee, but somehow always talking about Melee podcasts. Some of the best co-hosts in the game. We got Donut, we got Drew. This is an amazing time. This is an amazing place that we're in right now where the guest is introing a little bit. I'm Jesse. I also go by Cyfer003. I'm very excited to be here, as you can tell. I brought the juice a little bit. Is anybody surprised? I don't know. When you listen to my own podcast, you just go onto the internet and look up Bottom of the Smash Mountain. That's where you'll find me. I don't normally talk like this, but I'm bringing the juice because this is not my own show, so I don't feel as nervous about maintaining a certain welcoming presence. I hope you feel welcome, but I'm bringing the juice. Dan, Drew, how you guys doing?
Good. So as you guys can see, we have taken on a third host to the show.
The tables have turned today.
Oh, how the turntables! So we are here with Cyfer003, aka Bottom of the Smash Mountain podcast, aka Jesse, good pal of ours. We were just on his show the other week. How's it going, man? That was I swear we've been chilling in this call for like a good almost 20 minutes, and that energy was like not there. And all of a sudden
you gotta go when the camera turns on.
I thought to myself, I really want to try to just bring a little bit extra, just a little bit extra. And yes, I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for sacrificing a week of recording last week. You did not put out an episode of the Baker's Dozen podcast. For all the Baker's Dozen faithful, thank you so much for your patience. I include myself in that bunch because even though I'm not subscribed to the amazing patreon.com/thebakersdozen, not yet, or yes, it is patreon.com/thebakersdozen. Even though that hasn't happened as of now, I think that those people deserve all the best. Hopefully they got a little bit or enough of a fix last week, but here we are once again on the Baker's Dozen. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and we're super happy to have you. This is a lesson, kids. One day, if you grow up and watch enough of the Baker's Dozen, and you're our number one fan, always commenting, he's always there watching the shows, maybe this could be you. But probably not. There's a little bit more resemblance here and relevance that he has.
There's a lot more of a possibility if you sub to the Patreon.
Sub to the Patreon funny. First.
I was talking to my buddy Mike today, and he was like, I was like, yeah, I was on my way home. I was like, we're recording an episode of the podcast, and we have someone on. And he goes, you should have me on the show. And just I don't say a word.
He's like Mike.
He's like you just have him on, and he's just there as like the third screen, and he just sits there and like smiles for like an hour.
I feel like you could just put him like in the backdrop, like under like where your couch is. Just have Mike sit there like legs crossed, just sitting and observing the entire show, and that could work just as well. We could just be talking about anything at all and just not acknowledge he's there.
Yeah, he was like, just put me on the show. He's like, I'll be there. He's like, I'll just hang. He's like, maybe I'll make a sandwich somewhere in there.
Yes.
Yes. Back with food. I don't know. I mean, that could be great, but this is our special holiday episode. Happy holidays once again to all of our lovely pastry pals and, of course, our dear friend Jesse here.
We've made it to episode 10.
Yeah, we're in
this one. I have to officially start going to my toes to remember which episode we're on. I've run out.
Congratulations on making it to double digits, y'all.
Appreciate it. I feel like we really can't say shit to the guy with triple digits over here, but I mean, we're slowly making the stride. So I mean, just because I know we've touched on it a little bit here, and who knows, maybe our fan bases will one day diverge to a point where people know the Bottom of Smash Mountain, people know the Baker's Dozen. So for those that do not know Bottom of the Smash Mountain, let's give them a little history lesson. Let's take them to the school of Cypher, give them a little bit of a lesson playing. What is you, and then what is the Bottom of the Smash Mountain? Who is Cypher, and what is Bottom of the Smash Mountain?
I haven't had to give a history lesson on my podcast in thorough detail yet. But for me, that should be easy enough because normally I like to fill in the person who I talk to. Normally we don't get a lot of time to get to know each other before getting on the mic and talking, right? Most of the time I interview people about Melee. So I'd usually sneak in little tidbits like, oh, I wanted to get into Melee back back in 2006 because I saw PC Chris versus Ken on YouTube, the MLG New York Grand Finals. I was amazed and thought, I want to play Melee just like that because I love the game. And then because I'm more of an introverted person, because I live in an area, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, a place that I love in many ways, but also is not a Melee powerhouse. It's not like it was Norwalk or New York City or MDVA. So I just more or less at the end of the day decided I could probably be doing quote unquote better things. I don't know. It's not for me, even though I mean, you should know by now, for the two of you at the very least, I love talking about Melee. I love playing Melee. I love all things Melee. So I tried to hold that part of myself back because I was afraid, I guess. And then in 2021, after many, many years going by, getting married, having children, doing the job stuff, I finally decided to put myself out there, try to get involved with doing a podcast, not just following along on Twitter and watching live streams of Melee events, which are really fun. And anybody who does that is a very important part of the community, or at least in my heart, because I was there for so long, just sort of chilling, lurking, as they say. But getting involved with doing the podcast started in January of this year. So we're almost up to a year now for my podcast. Very humble beginnings. I did it in my car with an iPhone at first. Slowly getting to the point now where I have internet. I have a laptop that's technically a work laptop, but my boss said it's okay for me to use it for this. I have I have a microphone and camera, and I think that the biggest thing between the beginning and now is not only just the starting off really in a just low level, like crude kind of a making it from the mud kind of
Mhm.
thing to now is I just kept at it. So consistency was really important to me at the start because I thought I just need to lean into this. That is sort of my personality. I like to lean into something if I want to go for it. And maybe I was afraid of that before, but I'm not afraid of it now.
Nice.
I love that. And you've had some amazing guests on your show. We joked about it on your joked about it on your show that having us was like a pretty tremendous like goal to get us on the show.
It's pretty tricky.
But
We got hard
but
schedules.
but but he brings a lot of people on, and I want to highlight this again. The Melee community at times it feels very hard to get into. There's a lot of different barriers, and a lot of times, especially with COVID, a lot of the interactions have to happen online. And there's times that Melee Twitter is just a cesspool of like garbage and like things you don't want to see. And a lot of times you never really get heard unless you're already clouded. It's
True.
one of those things that like no matter what happens, it's like my old account before I knew you before this job had like I was getting to a point where I was like, oh my goodness, I actually have a following. And I actually had run into, I think it was like Mog today and Netplay, and they were streaming, and I went into their chat, and I was like, "Hey, GG's," and he's like, "Oh, I know DrewNG. Yeah, I follow your Twitter." It was like my old Twitter, and but I was like, "Wait a minute, this is that." It was like weird to me, and it just happened today. But where I'm going with this is, it's for me. I think it's rare to see someone that hadn't had that find success, which is unfortunate. Those people should, but you're doing such a good job. The consistency, it's getting these people on, and even I think we talked about it a little bit. Getting people to like actually answer DMs and like follow through with things is its own nightmare and trying to get it done. But you've done it. You've kind of persevered that, and getting fantastic people on, doing great content that you want to get. And it's one of those things where if you get the right person, you've got a really good thing going. That sometimes people aren't just going to go in and watch a random episode. But if you get someone they know or someone they really like, they're going to get hooked. That's what happened with me. You had Jesse, you had a War Machine on, and I was on a trip, and I'm good friends with Jesse, and I was like, this is awesome.
The grown working man.
I was like,
Yes.
let me watch another episode. And then let me watch another. Oh, you had Tofon too? And then at some point it doesn't just become about the names or like that, but it's good content. And that is awesome. Just a shout outs. That's really, really good. And a lot of people can learn from that.
Shout outs to Ghetto War Machine. One of the favorite interviews I have to admit, because he talks about getting over the hump, beating someone who he couldn't beat is like I
It was
lived through
so
that.
passionate.
Yes. Yeah. And I appreciate the kind words, Drew. For me, yes. I love having people on like Ghetto War Machine and Toph. I love having people on like JFlex, names that people recognize, and I would love to continue to be able to do that. I think my favorite part ultimately is being able to have on voices of the community that are maybe perhaps a little bit more under the radar, not just about getting on TOs or getting on, I don't want to say community organizers. I just more of people who sort of are wearing a bunch of hats but don't get the props. I think that there's only so much room in any setting. It's not just about Melee. I mean, you could apply this to any Smash game, FGC, any video game or esport where there's a bunch of people talking about what they love. There's people that float to the top because they're either really lucky or they're really hardworking. They have the right connections. And then the rest of the community are very important contributors as well, or at least that's how it feels to me in my mind. So I get to have on people who, like Ekans is a player who plays Melee based out in Japan, and he's not InGen. Everybody was talking about InGen this past weekend at the Smash World Tour, and that is well deserved. InGen has gone from not playing Melee at all, leading up to Slippy being put out there into the world by Fizzy, starts playing Melee, and is now competing at the Smash World Tour. How cool is that? Yeah. So of course, all the mad props for InGen who presses them buttons. Damn good. But I love talking to people like Ekans as well, who help run tournaments, who also enter and compete and play, and are just happy to have a community to feel welcome and safe and feel like they can be themselves, so they can express themselves. So it's great to be able to have on or people like Petra, people like Legs who live up in Canada, the great old country of Canada. Each of them run their own Slippy event. So just again, really cool stuff to hear when I get to talk to people who allow Melee to be in their life in sub capacity or are super involved by running tournaments that may fly under the radar compared to BTS or compared to the Smash World Tour. But I love all of it. So it's been great to get to know a lot of different people within Melee. It's really cool. It's really fun.
Absolutely. And I would even point out one other thing that I've grown to appreciate more about your show as well, not for us to overly fanboy, but we will. I mean, but I also see you going back and you've done research and made sure to also address the old heads or the old cavalry of people that started this way back when. I've seen you've interviewed Killa OR. You've talked to the Kish brothers. I know Homemade Waffles still is a part of things, but like talking with him and just older heads that have played the game for a while now, even JFlex can be somewhat included with that, except he still maintains, like a pretty solid dominance. But nonetheless, you talk to some of these older people as well that have been in the scene for a while, which again, just as like a gentle reminder, those that aren't aware, bottom of the Smash Mountain, he interviews Smash players and Smash community TOs, all that great stuff. He's smart. He talks to the Smash scene. And I think that's one of the coolest things, starting from the bottom, making the way up. Much like Drew even mentioned, is it's just cool to see that type of climb. But one thing I'm curious from your end, just from like a perspectives tale, is when you've started doing mixed bags where you do talk to older heads and you do talk to some newer generation players. I think you just talked to like Fire a couple, like 2 months ago or something like that.
Firepuff 12. Shout outs to the Fire Nation Discord. Love that Discord.
So there's like a bunch of people that are either old and young and like new people all over the place. So like when you talk to these people, do you notice yourself a difference in perspective when they talk about the game, or do you notice all in like a similar encompassing way when they talk about it.
I look for both. I think that we all sort of, I mean, have you ever talked to somebody who has a thick accent and then afterwards you find yourself sort of copying how they talk by accident almost? I think for me, when I talk to people and I want to hear their perspective, I'm really trying to wear their shoes or the shoes that they're offering in a metaphorical way. And I get to hear how there are some things that we have in common around Melee. And then there's some things that we have that are different from each other in Melee. So I love hearing how things are different, of how they process through and see the game and how they play the game or talk about the game, or the similarities. I like seeing both and hearing about both. So when I have somebody on, I try to do enough research to know where they come from or what their interests are specifically within Melee. But I try to have as discovering of a conversation as possible, stay curious. I think there's a quote about staying curious instead of, I don't know, not being curious about life anymore. Try to channel that because, for one thing, I think it helps the person who's on feel like their time is more respected when I'm not just sort of cutting off and saying, you did this, let's focus on that, or forcing it. I just sort of like to let that go whatever direction, because ultimately Melee's so cool that regardless of the context, it usually turns out to be a pretty fun conversation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
With everyone, all these people that you have on, and I mean, everyone's so passionate about Melee, and that's one of the things that I love. Everyone has a coming up story. Everyone has their favorite tournament memories, and that's something I almost want to dive into a little bit of that, and then I'll use this when we get back to me as a segue. But just think about, I know you just started, I'm thinking like 3 steps ahead right now. I'm like a chess player.
Man's is 3D chessing in the
Yeah.
middle of our podcast. Jesus.
But think about, I know just you just started recently attending some tournaments. But even if it's something that just happened, and Dan, I want you to answer too. Think about
No.
think about a tournament that you've gone to that made you just think, man, I love I love Melee. I love this. It could be a performance, it could be the vibe, it could be whatever you kind of feel, what comes to your mind when you're like, why is Melee so cool for you?
Do you
Two
want to
things.
start?
No,
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate that. I'll just use the guest card. So 2 things come to mind for me. The first thing that comes to
My
mind,
guest card.
yeah. I'm sorry, I can't help it. Okay,
No,
I just
you're good. No,
to take the space. I
You're
normally
good.
I give the space. I'm gonna take the
I
space.
forget.
I love you guys. So basically, for me, the first thing that comes to mind is being able to get to know. And this, I'm sorry, Drew, but I have another Drew in my life. I wasn't forward about this.
It's
Maybe I
messed
shouldn't
up.
have mentioned this while recording, but there was another Drew, and there is still another Drew you should know. And shout outs to Lancaster 717 Melee Drew. He and I are the 2 new people at the locals at the Melee stuff. And he's an ultimate kid, and for me, categorically kind of hard because I mean, I knew about competitive Melee since 2006, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
The point is that we're both new. We both suck, and it's fun because when we play, we're discovering things about the game that we have kind of been able to think about before or know from watching or playing against other players. But when we play each other, we have a lot of fun because we're still so bad, but we know what we want to do. And so when we do something cool, I'll go, "You just did the thing," and then vice versa, he'll say, "You just did the thing," and we'll just get excited. So that happens at pretty much every tournament where we're both there and playing friendlies, or we have played in bracket a few times, but the second thing that comes to mind is playing doubles for the first time. That happened more recently. We normally don't do doubles because there's usually about 10 or 12 people that attend at the most. So doubles not going to fly. But after the bracket, one of these past Saturdays, it was me and 3 other people for playing doubles friendlies. And I finally understood what it was like to have a good doubles session. It was amazing. I was like I was like I was cloud 9 because it's so much fun to have like a teammate backing you up. And so that was super fun for me. I haven't been able to place first or been able to take any names or do anything like that. So maybe that'll be in my future. But for now, having fun is probably just the best part of it, because even though it's a 20-year-old game, the reason why everybody keeps doing it and playing it and hating it at the same time is because they love Melee so much. And I appreciate having those experiences for myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, damn, it's hard to kind of really say anything different than that, but I mean, one of the biggest things that stands out to me, Drew, if you can even recall this, are sessions with Perfect Hell. Back at his apartment when we used to just bull out and had like maybe 5 or 6, maybe 8 people sometimes, like in the early days when we were in college. We used to go over to a friend of ours, Perfect Hell. Shout out Dave, one of the best Zelda players you'd ever beat or lose
Ooh,
to.
let's go.
He was a really nice guy, really friendly when it came to like learning the game. I was very, very new. I think Drew was definitely way more advanced than me at the time. But like I would hang out with Dave every so often, and there would be times where he would just like host a fest in his apartment or in his dorm or something like that. And we'd all just hang out, and like of course we were all of age and we would drink a little bit here and there and just kind of hang out, and it was just a really fun time. um but those sessions were probably the most fun and the most like eye-opening to I love this. I love having a community of people that are playing the same game as me, having the same amount of fun as me, laughing at the same things as me. Like we can all get along and enjoy these things that only we're gonna get. You pull random Timmy two turns off the street here and bring him in, and you show him a Ken combo. I mean, he'll probably be like, "Whoa, that was interesting." Or maybe he'll be like, why did that person die? Why didn't he live? That was stupid. Or like something like that. And they're not going to have the same appreciation as someone that at least understands general concepts of Melee and saw a Ken combo or a European Ken combo or a chain grab 0 to death on FD, like any of these types of nuances, and look at them and go, that was sick. Or that, or even better, that was lame as shit. Like having those similar feelings, I think, especially in those fests, definitely helped nail the feeling. Also, I found your guest card. It's okay. I can mail that back over to you if you need.
We had like that was like our freshman year, right? No, maybe it was a little after, but
Sophomore. I
there
didn't
was
start playing till sophomore year.
gotcha. There was like a golden age where like Perfect Hell was there, Wild was still there, Artist was
Mhm.
there.
Oh my
I don't
god,
remember.
artists.
I don't remember Tanner's tag. What was Tanner's tag?
I wasn't there for Tanner. I don't
You
know
weren't
who
there
Tanner
for
was.
Tanner?
I
He was
have
a
no idea.
Falcon player. He was really good.
That's me now. That's me. But
Wow.
Josh
Josh,
TGB. Um,
TGB.
what was Turkleton? That was his
Yep.
tag. I was
He
like, what was
streamed he streamed Super
he
Mario
streams Mario?
64
Yep.
every once in a while. I stopped in his chat like a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
this
All the
this
college
reminded
friends.
me. This wasn't. I'll end with this one then. So what I had thought of was um is actually a Buffalo weekly that we went to.
Okay.
Where we went to school, we're about an hour from Buffalo. Got pretty close to people in their scene. Um, and we went in like December out to a Buffalo weekly. I think you were in this card, Dan.
Probably.
It
I
was at like
to a
it
lot of
was at like
those.
an Elks Lodge, like gentleman, like old guys club thing.
Wait, was this like one of the Rust Belt things?
I don't think it was like that fancy of a thing. It was a
No. It
random.
wasn't like fancy, but it was the same guy. I can't remember his name, and I feel so bad because he was such a nice guy. But he was the same guy that ran those events, right?
I don't know.
Tall guy, like really kind of like skinny, like very, very skinny man, but tall. His
I
girlfriend
don't.
was always there. We don't know. Might
I
not
don't
be.
remember, but
Fuck.
it was at this like Elks Lodge kind of thing,
Okay.
and there was a bar, and we drink responsibly. I was not the one driving. It was actually a snowstorm. I think Josh had to drive home in like a snowstorm in Western New York. But I went to this event, and I go to the events and like I want to do well. I want to do this, and I'm playing, and I'm like, wait a minute, I can get like drinks and like be at this event. And like again, nothing like crazy, but I'm like having a good time. And then I play Jank. Jank is
Love
a
Jank.
Western. He's a Buffalo Puff. He is such like the real definition of like a homie. Like you love seeing him anytime you go to an event.
Friend of the show.
And friend of the show. And we're about to play in bracket, and he's like, "We gotta play." So yeah, he's like, "Let me buy you a drink."
I
Like not
love it.
just like so wholesome. Like let's go
awesome.
do it. Like so we like have a drink, we catch up, and then we go play our set. And tournament goes happening. I did it right. I don't remember. And then we start to drink a little bit more, and it's like, all right. And then if you ever with like people and you start drinking, you know the secondaries come out. And then Jank and I doing a drunk Falco ditto.
His
with our
Falco
drunk
doesn't mess
fuckers.
around.
It
It probably did for that, but
didn't pale in comparison to the drunk DrewNG Falco.
the DrewNG Falco.
But like an event like that's what I thought of when I'm like,
Mhm.
man, what is like this? What is all this fun stuff? And it was that. But when you were just talking about like our people from college, I actually one year, so I live not far from where I live now. It's in like Hudson Valley. And I had 3 people from Long Island come to my house over a weekend to watch Evo.
Ooh, that's
So
nice.
like we're just like my parents' house, and I was like, "Can I have my friends over? We're going to like watch this Melee event and like play Melee downstairs." And they're
What
like,
year was this?
"Yes."
Do you remember? Like, was this H-Box win where he cried on the floor, or was this Armada win where he nearly ripped his own dick off?
I don't know.
Damn.
I feel like
I
it would be the
really
Armada
don't-
one because you remember
Right.
H-Box pop off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it must have been Armada. I don't actually remember, but it was Greg, so Mr. Mackey,
Shout-outs.
Ty, and Josh
Malfunction
came.
and Josh Money.
And Josh came. And what we did is we made we printed out like brackets. Like good old March Madness and did bracket predictions. To like get out of pools, and we did it for like the master bracket or like the final bracket.
That was a hot topic for Riptide.
It was so much fun. And it was like we played, we hung out. I think they came Saturday, we watched all pools, and then Sunday, and then I think they stayed over Sunday into Monday or something.
I love
it was,
those.
It was just so fun. And
Fantasy Melee's sick.
yeah. And it just kind of these communities and just like the friends and like so those people, I was friends with them because they were all music majors at the same school I went to. But just having those bonds, like those are memories that like you just don't forget. And like Dan said, like, oh, having this in common just like further elevates everything. It was just so
Further builds the love.
Yeah.
Further builds the friendship. Quick shout out to Jank again though, because I actually ran into him on Slippy literally like 3 days ago. I'm sure if I go to my Facebook.
Camp you out? He camp you out?
No. He doesn't camp.
He's a ruthless time outerer.
He did not time me out. We had like some close games, but then there were some. He's disgusting. He is disgusting. What was it on this Monday?
I should play him. I've got some ideas in that matchup. I'll have to message him.
Dude,
that's
sick.
Like I was in Buffalo for a wedding.
Yep.
And I never been like in a wedding party before. I didn't really know like what the day of the wedding was gonna look like. And they're like, hey, you have to like be back at 2. And I was like, what am I gonna do from when I wake up until 2? And I didn't.
Just played Melee.
I almost messaged Jank and was like, hey man, I don't know where you are. I don't know what you're doing, but can I come and play Melee? I think I pulled him up on Messenger. I was that close to asking. I was like, I don't have a controller. I don't know where in Buffalo he lives compared to where I am. I don't know if I'm going to be needed early, so I decided not to. But if I had thought about it ahead of time, I would have coordinated that.
We'll reach out. We'll reach out to
Reach out.
Jank. We'll let him know.
I want to go back to Buffalo over the summer and see the people, my friends that just got married, and that would absolutely be a stop, is to see him and like go see if there's like a Buffalo Fest happening.
Absolutely.
You know, I know a teacher or two besides you, Drew, and it sounds like summertime is not nearly as much of a vacation as I have been led to believe leading up to more recent years in my life. Why
Mhm.
is it that there has to be all this stuff that just keeps you tied down? Why can't you just like disappear for 3 months and then come back in August?
I would love to be able to do that just naturally, but
Yeah. Sometimes there's little trainings. This is my first year in like a full-time position where I know I will be coming back in the next year. So I have not had a true summer where I was employed and knew what was happening into the next year. But I mean, there's going to be times I have to like set up my classroom and do things like this. But I imagine I'll have some time. Absolutely time. I would, if I were to like coordinate, I would this summer, as long as everything with the corona and everything lightens up. I have three areas I need to hit. Western New York, which is like Buffalo, friends out there, maybe go back see my old school. Connecticut, go to like a New England regional. I was talking about that before we got on the podcast about some of them. And then down to like Virginia. And
let's
then
go.
that way, AVA's down there, another buddy Timnet's down there. And just just like catch up with people I haven't seen. It'll be like 2+ I mean, we haven't no, I saw you once after you graduated.
We saw each other twice because remember we got lunch.
Lunch.
We got
Yeah.
lunch. Yeah.
We got
And then
lunch.
I saw you at like a tournament, I think once. I think you came to like a
Oh,
local,
Island or
a Cap Region local or something like that.
yeah.
But
I mean, it's still
on
probably been since like
well, it's
like
been at minimum. Yeah,
3
it's been at minimum like a year and a half or something like that.
It's
Because you got to meet Callie, so you
Yes, I did.
definitely that's definitely been within the year or not within the year, but it's just been a while. And you've definitely never been down this way. But certainly our oh my god, I totally just lost my train of thought. Certainly with everything that we've been talking about within like the melee scenes and things like that, one thing that I'm also curious within your realm of at least what seems more because like I understand that you're a bit of a player as well, like you compete here and there, but at the same time your show where you're interviewing people more and you're discussing tournaments more and communities and whatnot. With all of that being said, I guess I would be curious to know maybe what are some of your, if not your favorite event from this past year of 2021, and maybe what is it that you're most looking forward to in 2022?
My favorite event was obviously Smash Summit 11. It's just hard to beat that. I I couldn't name something else in clear conscience without thinking of Smash Summit 11. So that would be a lot of different people's favorite events from this year for a lot of good reasons. That's the one. By the way, for the non-melee people who have hung in so far, who want to hear about speedrunning or want to hear about, I don't know, what's the Cupcake Head game?
Cuphead.
Cuphead.
Or RuneScape or anything else?
Yes, they're like, oh, please. Wait, they said it. I'm going to turn up the volume. No, he's talking about melee
We're-
again.
The
Don't
thing.
worry.
Bart, say the line.
It's not. Listen, this isn't the melee podcast, but this is a melee episode.
It's the
All right.
Cyfer podcast today.
This is a Cypher. Yeah. This is about Cypher and the bottom of the Smash Mountain. All right. You gotta just take it where you get it. All right. Enjoy.
However, I will give you a slightly hipstery answer, something that might tickle the left side of your brain a little bit more. I really enjoy the nightclub events. Of course, you both being coming up in the upstate New York scene. Of course, you know that New York City is a thing, and there have been events over the years, kind of on and off by different people. But Ryo Beat, shouts to Ryo Beat, a friend of my show, and I
Friend of the show.
have to imagine a friend of the Baker's Dozen.
Friend of the
He was
show.
a friend of the bakery, therefore, by the transitive property, is a
Yes.
fan of.
Yes, yes. Ryo Beat is the homie and is doing an amazing job running the nightclub. I loved Kadoran versus Aklo in their season 1 finale from this might have been about a month and a half ago. Kadoran just 3-0s Aklo so fast in the first set of grand finals, resets the bracket, and then Aklo wins game 2. They go to FD. Aklo brings out Linklo, and the rest is history. It was so much fun to watch. And I loved how Kadoran doubled down, loses the game versus Link versus Aklo on Final Destination. It goes back to Final Destination, but loses to the Link again. I mean, at some point, it was either game 3 or game 4. Aklo, like, took 4 stocks in a row after losing a stock or 2. It was just insane. And I don't know if I always enjoy watching Link, but Save State, shout out to Save State, and Aklo, my 2 favorite Link players to see on the Twitter timeline whenever their clips come up.
Absolutely. I'd say that was definitely a funny ass fucking set when that happened. But I think another thing I wanted to ask here was also because we were talking a lot about like traveling and like different parts of the world, and I think that's where my train of thought started to roll out. But like, do you have interest or do you have any prospect here of traveling more outside of your current region and area, maybe hitting a major scene or something like that?
Dude, you don't even know. I want to go
I don't.
everywhere. I want to go everywhere. So the best way to say it is that I want to go everywhere while also saving money and staying with my family as much as I can during my free time. I work full time, then I do the podcast, then I do a Melee IRL local, although we're taking a break for Christmas and New Year's, and then we'll see what happens with the virus stuff and blah blah blah. But it takes up a fair amount of my time, and so I think to myself, if I want to be able to hold to my obligations and responsibilities and my duty as a family man, then I need to be careful about just saying, oh, I'll just try to go to as much as possible. I have to be a little bit more purposeful. So the only thing that I know that I am definitely going to do, I will literally do about anything that I can to get there, is to go to the Big House 10 in October of 2022. I definitely want to go to that. I've had Robin Juggle Guy on the show on Bottom of Smash Mountain podcast, and aside from that conversation, I know how much history there is there. I watched the Big House 9 live. That was the only one I got to watch live because I didn't watch live events consistently until the end of 2018. All that to say, so much history, and it would be amazing to be able to. It's not going across the country. It's not like going out to Los Angeles or a summit event or main stage or something else like that. But I want to try to get out a little bit more. I've done limited traveling in regular life. I've mostly been here in Pennsylvania, just chilling and doing my thing, but I want to. So the question that I have to saddle up on is, how much can I actually do? And that remains to be seen.
Responsibility is important. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's always like a tricky line because it's also like, oh, I want to do this, I want to go to this, and it's like there's a lot of work, especially when you said working full time. You have a family. It's not. There's some people that are like, oh wait, they like added extra spots for Genesis. I guess I'm going now, and I'm like, or even well, something that I found interesting. I talked to someone, I forget who it was, about this because they were someone and they said, yeah, that's what I do for my vacation time. I will take like a week from like like Thursday to Thursday or something, and they'll go to like Genesis. And they'll go to
Yeah.
Genesis, they'll see, and I mean, again, that's a harder situation when you have other people that rely on you to be around. But it's something that I like had never really thought of because I was like, how do
How
you
do
get
people get that?
1,000 people to go to Genesis and then
Yeah.
stay for grand final Sunday night? Like
It would
how
be challenging for me for the traditional weekend trip for sure. I almost
yeah.
certainly have to stay until Monday.
hmm And then I have never flown for an event. Um,
Same.
the furthest, I mean, I guess I've gone to Shine twice, and both of those times we did not stay for the end. So
That's
we
so
were there.
painful.
I and it in like we didn't like Zane won. Yeah, Zane won a Shine, right? Am I not?
Shine
I think so.
2018, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we were gone before that. We were like listening on the way home. And it was just a fault of like that was what we had planned, and it was our first major. And it was more about like a hey, this is what we're doing. I was I guess I wasn't quite as old, but I mean, I didn't really have a job. So like at the time, like the difference between like 2 or 3 nights in a hotel and this were things that was like, I don't know, we could
It's
save like
costly.
some bucks if I just go home now and then drive home. But it's like I haven't gotten that full experience at an event. And maybe it'll take going a little bit out of my way to do. I was almost thinking about going to a SmashCon once.
Those
My
look like so much fun, honestly.
I've heard mixed things about the event in general, but
They have a
I know
lot of brackets to run.
True.
yeah, I know that I don't think he lives there that now, but I have a friend that at one point said he lived about 10 minutes from the venue and had a couch for me.
That'd
So
be tight.
I
My
I'd
can't
best
say.
friend
imagine.
is 10 minutes away from Chantilly. I was like, oh, oh.
Yeah, and that might have been I think this was even before COVID, but I had just gotten to Shine, and I was like, I can't go another weekend and then go. And at that time, I was also living at home, and to like be with my folks, be like, hey, I just like went to this gaming thing and spent like a couple $100 to go say at this event and do this. I'm going to do it again this week.
Exactly.
Was hard. So who
it's
knows?
it's really hard to kind of like be be responsible in those scenarios when you do have a lot on the line to kind of push back and to worry about like PTO in this country is something that's difficult enough to kind of rack up and then utilize for something like that. Being a family man, I can only imagine like that in itself is difficult. My girlfriend and I like trying to simply plan out vacations is tough sometimes. We're going to be visiting family for these holiday seasons. My family's in New York. So us both trying to structure out, what day am I going to be getting off? Oh, I'm going to be getting off at this time on this day. You're going to be getting off at this time on this day. Let's make sure we have everything packed so we could leave at this time this day, maybe stay here. Like trying to schedule and like plan things out like that it's fucking rough, to say it nicely. And so especially trying to plan out majors and like actually attending other events, whether or not you're a spectator, whether you're a competitor, whether you're like a content creator, all of these things combined. I know myself, I was a spectator at Pound 2019. I went to that tournament, did not compete intentionally. I just wanted to go to be at a major. I hadn't competed for like at least maybe like 3 months or so, and I had started feeling like I'm probably like I might be done and I might just stay in the content creation field, but I just wanted to go to a major. So me and a bunch of Cap Region friends got like a decent enough hotel. I slept in a chair, I think. Um, and we just went and shout out a buddy of mine, RC. I think he got like 33rd or something at that or not 33rd. Was it 65th? I think 65th is what he got. So
Ah,
like he
close.
did what he beat just Jason in his pools, and that was like a
Ooh,
sick
okay.
upset for
All
him.
right.
Um,
Nice.
and then I think the rest of the people I went with. Oh, what's his name? Drew, Codeman?
I love Cody. That's someone
Everyone,
else I was thinking about when I was talking about like Janked and just like super
Mhm.
like love interacting with them. Cody's another one of
If
those.
I can reference anyone to be on your show, Code Man, he is one of the best Pichu mains you will ever come across, and he loves that character with a passion. He took a game from S2J. And Axe
That's
comes
cool.
over. Axe comes over to the setup that it's happening at, and he's like looking around and like asking people. They're like, "Who is this guy? Who is this guy?" And we're all around, and we're just being like, "Yeah, that's Code Man. That's Code Man. He's from Caprici." He's just like, Pichu, that's my baby. Like, and we're just talking about it. And unfortunately, I mean, S2J took the game 3, and that was it. Fist bump and done. I think it was pretty decisive too. Maybe it wasn't. I don't want to talk down about it at all, but Copeman definitely held his shit. And it's like
Or
going to that like as a spectator was sick. Being a viewer of a tournament was sick. There are shots of me, if you watch Pound 2019 videos from like top 64, I want to say, or maybe top 16 somewhat. I'm in the front row. You could see me there. I'm there and I'm just chilling. A shout out to Seventh Prodigy, I think is his tag again. He took a shit ton of photos from that event, and I saved some of them. But being a spectator is amazing. Being a competitor can be fun, and being a content creator who's trying to find work in that field can be fun. But just scheduling to get to do that was hard as shit, and I had to work a seasonal job, work overtime just to afford the hotel. I had to then dip into my own savings to handle anything else, food, gas money, like all this other shit. Yeah, it's really really tricky. So I guess like on one hand, it's really cool to see that you've already kind of understood all that, because once again, like Drew has somewhat alluded to earlier on, you are a bit more like, you know, coming up on, yeah, you've got things kind of figured out while you're still, I guess, like you're fresh into, I would say, like a melee scene, while at the same time you've been here a good amount. You know your history to whatever extent you're building, and if you intend on doing these things, it seems like you're well enough set to do it right.
you got Moxie Kid like
You
that.
Aw, thank you. I think part of it involves when you start living out on your own, and I did that at the young, tender age of 21. That's when I was 21 when I got married to Jen, and we started living together in our own apartment at that age. And I was working full time. I've been working full time, different jobs, but through this whole time, right? So she was doing part time, and so that was nice. But then when our firstborn Ellie came into the world, she stopped working because she wanted to stay at home with Ellie, a decision that I very much applaud and appreciate, because it's a financial sacrifice, and she also had to put aside, Jen had to put aside, uh, career might be a bit of the wrong statement, but she was working on building up a career in personal training, but she cared more about staying at home, and so that was such a big deal to like make that decision. So I always give her props for that, because that's something that she still does. Ezra, our second born, came a little bit while later, and all that to say, we've had to learn, just for me working and bringing in our income, to learn how to make things work. We have to learn how to utilize Amazon Prime deal days and all that good stuff, Craigslist as needed, Skims, this, that, and the third. And
Yep.
over the course of the pandemic, I've been able to stay working for the most part, which has been a very, very big blessing. I have to say, it's scary enough when you feel like you're potentially gonna run into like certain problems if you lose your job, but when it feels like everybody started to have those kind of issues come up with the pandemic when that first hit, I thought to myself, I'm really new at this job where I'm at right now. I think I'm going to be the first one to go, because I was like the first one, the most recent one in. And what ended up happening is my boss ultimately said to me, after other people had to be let go, was he said, I want you to be around. I really believe in you and what you can do. So that was a big confidence booster at the time. Just somebody appreciated me for the work that I was doing. That was not always consistent at other places where I've worked in the past. So at my current job, which I'm still am working at, it's been really cool. So the last thing being, I was able to save throughout that process. We were both able to, me and Jen, be able to work it out to be able to ultimately in this year move into a natural house. That took a couple of different miracles, but making that work was really a big accomplishment for both of us. So now I think to myself, if I can do that, except not with the goal of buying a house, but with the goal of making a weekend or a week away doing melee stuff make sense, I could probably do that at least once a year. But I have goals and ambitions at the same time. Like I tend to throw myself into what I'm doing. So I have this big temptation to say, I think I want to go to like a big event like once a month. I want to do that kind of stuff. And then I go, stop it. No, reality check. You can't do those things. Even if the money makes sense, you also have to still do the whole everything else, because I can't lose sight of what is very beautiful and very important to me, which is my family. So I love my family. That let the record show. I think in the sense of the content
Needed
stuff
to.
and the melee stuff and the playing, like I want to be better at melee as well. I just have to tell myself, let it come to you and do what you can do. Somebody will appreciate it. And there are people who are regulars for listening to my podcast, so that's good enough for me. I remaining thankful is how I've been able to stay sane, is what I'm getting at.
Absolutely.
And one of the beautiful things is that melee, if it always feels like it's still there. So like you said you started in 2006, and that's when you first kind of discovered an interest. Everyone has their starting story, and there's still storylines you can fall in love with and get into. There's different topics if you really want to get into what's going on right now. You could get in there and get involved right now. That even if you go, hey, I need some time, I can't focus on this now. It's not like you leave and then everything's new. Especially like being a spectator. I mean, if you're looking at like the tippity top, like 0.01, like top 10 players, yeah, if you leave for like a year, like Mewtwo King, yeah, probably not gonna do super hot. But we're not here to be Mewtwo King. We're just here to be part of the community. And
Yet.
that's something that is awesome about it, is that it's not, you don't feel like you're in the dust because you haven't been able to watch. And really, if you really wanted to catch up on things, there's content that can catch you up where you just watch the sets. It's all these big moments, and that's one of the other really really cool things. It's easy to find a lot of this. Like if you
We're
like,
everywhere.
we're everywhere. Like you could say, oh, like Smash Summit was your favorite event. You guys can go watch Grand Finals of Summit 11. I'm not going to tell you what happened. Something pretty cool might have happened.
Something pretty sick. I was about to make a horse bladder joke there, but I didn't.
Oh,
It's everywhere.
everywhere.
It's
Oh
everywhere.
god.
Shout out friend of the
You have
show.
to give a little bit of context because just
Smallest amount of context ever. Buffalo Falco player horse bladder
Tag's
first
name is
met.
Horserada. You have
Yeah,
to
his tag's name is Horse Bladder. First tournament ever went at. He has this cult of friends that just start yelling "It's everywhere" while he's playing, and
it's like a combo. Like, oh, it's everywhere.
it was terrible.
Yeah,
Anyway,
he was getting really good by the time we left.
he's like number 2, I'm pretty sure, like out there. He's consistently placing like top 3 at every Buffalo thing that I'm seeing.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, no, dude's sick. He is everywhere.
Jank,
He is.
please.
Jank can't beat him, or at least he can, but very rarely it seems like. I don't know. A lot of people out in Buffalo have leveled up. Question, apparently, another one. You remember him, the Marth player?
Yeah, that was someone who like I was like, oh, they were like very all right when they started. They're like
He seems
competing. I feel
really
like,
solid.
yeah, they're competing in some like nightclubs every once in a while, or like online things, and just doing
I
like
Ooh.
wouldn't doubt it.
crazy well.
Yeah. Buffalo Crew
someone,
always
yeah.
Buffalo Crew will always have like a special place in the heart. Always love
Sure.
them.
You know what really, really weird thing? Fun fact about the Buffalo people that this is the only thing that I know other than what we've been talking about tonight. B-Bats originally played a lot of Melee at first with
Mhm.
a bunch of people in like a Buffalo Melee Discord, just like totally out of the blue.
Probably.
So
Huh.
no, it
They
was
do
the
that.
weirdest
They're
thing.
homied out.
I was like, B-Bats, when you first got into Melee, where did you how'd you get in? And B-Bats says, yeah, Buffalo Melee Discord. I played a lot of
That's
my
so
first Melee
funny.
games there. I was like, what?
Shout
That's
out the
so
homies.
funny. He's like, he hasn't been up there, has he?
No, I
Like
don't
out
think so.
there?
I think he's just been in New Jersey, but shout
That's
outs to
funny.
Buffalo.
Buffalo's always down
Did
to play.
you? I was thinking about this before and I couldn't remember the name and I didn't know if he had a tag and I didn't want to like say his name. I think his tag is just his name.
Who?
Is Hunter still out in like the Lancaster area?
I don't recognize that tag
You
or
don't
that name.
recognize
Hunter.
did he run events? I think
He was
you know what
someone
I'm
that was
talking
running
about,
because
right?
he helped set up Critical Role Esports, right? Or like Critical Hit
I think so.
Esports.
Because when you said Lancaster, I was like, I feel like I know someone who is advertising tournaments out there a while back.
It's Lancaster, Drew.
Lancaster?
Lancaster.
Gotcha.
Lancaster is like the Britain, I don't know, town or territory or whatever.
Sounds nice.
Gotcha.
I would go there.
But because I remember Hunter, just when you said that area that came in my head because he would advertise for stuff out there. He was a very nice guy. And I remember we never really talked much, but we'd like be at events. And then I went to a fight pit. We went to that fight pit.
We did
Dan.
go to Fight Pit. We did.
I forget which
Shout
one.
outs to PGH Smash.
Always.
And
I think it was 7, right?
I think so. I was on like a side stream. And at this point, I'm like a nobody. Like nobody, like never taken a set off of someone better than I am.
Only Gumball knows about you.
Just like very
Johnny.
initiative. The joke is the Man on a Ledge I went to before Fight Pit was my biggest tournament of all time. And then the next day, the Fight Pit was then my biggest tournament of all time. But I'm like, I go into this tournament like completely. I don't know if I was seating. I doubted I was seated. Didn't deserve to be. Didn't have anything. And I go back and I played one set on a random side stream, and it was versus 4% puff player. All right set, but like he won. It was not very close. And I go on the set and I'm like, this guy knows who I am. And like they're talking to me. I'm like, there's probably like 4 people in this venue who've ever heard of me. Wait a minute. And it was so cool. It was Hunter, and he was just happened to be on commentary at this. And it was just such a cool little moment. And I was thinking about him and I couldn't figure out his name, and it just came to me. But
Yeah.
that's another
I'll have to ask
I-
Jay Bobison.
yeah.
You might
I
know.
don't know.
Hunter came to I don't know if you remember this, Drew. He came to one
Came
of
to a
the
Sub-Zero, right?
Yeah. No, not Sub-Zero. He came to the Extra Life event, the 24-hour charity
Yes, he
event that
did.
we
He
held.
did come to one of
He came to
those.
that and he speed ran South Park Stick of Truth,
Oh,
the
cool.
Mage percent, and he also competed in the tournament. I think he played some Mafia with us. I don't recall that much, but I remember, was it me that took him out, or was that you?
I don't think I played him.
Radical Fox played him.
Oh,
And Eddie played him. That's all I'm seeing. I went back on our Extra Life VODs, and yeah, that was a good old time. I remember the Extra Lives; those were fun. We did a Super Mario Strikers bracket. The full VOD is on here. I'm gonna need to go back and watch all of
wait.
these.
Was I
Super
in
Mario
that?
Strikers is so
I
much
think
fun.
so.
I was nice. I'm nice at that game.
That was a
Hey,
good game.
me too.
Wait a
Oh, it was
minute.
the kids versus the Swag Daddies crew battle. I think that's what it was, where I probably versed him or
Hello?
something like that. Because I popped off. You remember that crew battle? I popped off. I
No.
took like 8 or 9 stocks.
I don't was I part of this? I
I
don't know
don't
if I was.
remember. You might not have been. We're not even remotely talking about fucking Jesse right now, though. So I'm gonna
Don't
wait
worry
to.
about it.
We're gonna spend an episode talking about the extra life stuff on another episode,
We
but
should. I
that
love
would
that
be fun.
stuff.
We have so much like college reminiscent shit that like we just keep remembering mid episodes of things. And it's
It's
just like, we did
I mean,
that.
honestly, like I'll this is the sappy, like that's what Melee does though, you
Yeah.
know? Like there's all these memories and you get all of these things that you just forget because there's so many positive experiences you have
Mm-hmm.
that you just think about. The more recent ones are ones that come to mind. But like I remember it was probably an extra life. Like me, like Peach Ganon versus
Yeah.
Turkleton. That
Yeah.
was a matchup that was happening for a while because I played Peach for a little bit. That's my origin story. I was Peach main. I was trying to do Peach when I was getting into things. But like these things, they just happen they come up so randomly, and then you're just right there again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And and it's one of those like where were you like when you were watching, and it's one of those things like when were you watching like Big or Summit 11 or like Big House 9, or there was a Genesis that was happening the same time as the Super Bowl one year, and
Oh yeah.
I was watching the Super Bowl with my roommates, and I had my laptop just unashamed, like, guys, I'm really like watching more of this, and I had like the Genesis of.
Well, I mean, shit, everyone's got their tournaments. And I mean, hey, speaking of tournaments, what just happened this
We're
past
getting there.
weekend? We're there.
We're
We're
getting
in it.
there. We
We're
actually
there.
made it to the Smash World Tour.
I figured we needed to touch on this a bit here. I mean, we
Yeah.
covered a tournament on your show. I feel like we could talk a little bit about this one
Well,
here while we've got you.
Not a Melee podcast.
It's not, it's really just a tournament recap, nothing too special. You'll hear it from us all the time. But this one holds a special place in Drew and my heart for a reason that we've somewhat covered in the
it's
prior
the
two
homie.
episode. We got the homies popping off. You love to see it, but I want to take a minute. Let's talk to you, Cypher. What did
Oh,
you Oh, you got something. You got something immediately.
this is, I don't know if you guys saw this. Did anyone see the ending of the Frenzy Mewtwo King set?
Frenzy
The
Mewtwo King set.
Frenzy Mewtwo King set.
It went game 5, didn't it?
Yeah, I did see that. It was clipped and put onto Twitter. Oof.
Dan, you might.
You
Do I
might
need
need to
to?
take a look at this.
If you're feeling down, I would recommend not checking it out. But
It's the holiday season. You're not allowed to feel sad.
yeah,
I mean,
that
You're saying just watch the ending?
yeah, you just need like 10 seconds to the ending.
Game 5,
Game
last
5,
stock.
like all the scary spots. But yeah,
Oh,
so
no.
that's the immediate thing because I was like, I'm looking at like the losers qualifiers, but I was like, before that, I was like thinking of that. I was like, oh my goodness. But
What?
this tournament had like a pretty cool format.
I think that
Yeah.
there was it was like mixed bag stuff because I think aside from the controller discourse, there was plenty of that kind of springboarding into the rest of this week. We're all talking about controllers this week. I was hearing some rumblings about the bracket not necessarily being great at all times, going from pools into the final bracket.
Yeah, there was
where-
one screw up
that it wasn't fixed, and everybody's just going like, what the heck, or you only care about ultimate or whatever. I don't know the full story there. That stood out to me. A player that stood out to me is actually someone who didn't do very well, which was Kadoran, who didn't place top 8, and this was followed up from Smash Summit 12 where Kadoran didn't place top 8 in that event either. And I know that there are things called rough patches. There's times where people start to figure you out and then you have to sort of re-innovate a little bit. It's hard to play really well, get second at main stage, and then turn out to lackluster performances or to lackluster bracket events in a row from Kadoran's part, especially being freshly signed to FlyQuest. But what I'm really hoping to see after these past 2 weekends of Smash Summit 12 and of the Smash World Tour out of Kadoran is just a little bit more of a back to the drawing board thing. Might be too basic to say, but I'm really hoping to see Kadoran continue to do what he's already doing, which is helping to run TMT and participating in that, participating at other net play events, and hopefully getting out to safely, like we all are trying to do safely, big regionals and big events and whatnot. The one that I know of that is going to most likely be a major or a super major is Double Down in Las Vegas. That happens in the beginning of March. So between now and then, there will be plenty of net play events to enter. But even just aside from that, I know that Kadoran also does teaches Melee, coaches Melee, I should say, on his Patreon. So I don't know how soon he'll get to clear his name in terms of like a big stage, but
Right.
I know that it's just, I think that the first half of 2022, you will see a very, very motivated Kadoran. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be one storyline that I want to pay attention to, because that flew under the radar, not because anybody wants to. I'm not trying to call out Kadoran, for the record. Doing so much better than I would do, at least at this time, and probably for the rest of time. I don't think I'll ever be as good as Kadoran, but it was not to what he would want to have in terms of a performance, I'm sure. So really excited to see what that turns into. Like, how do you bulletin board that and go, I'm going to come back with a vengeance at this next big event, whatever that may be.
You've watched his streams before and such, right? Like Kadoran streaming, the dude daily practices. The dude daily analyzes
Mango.
VODs and stuff. He's always playing against like Mango and all that. Like he's committed, and I actually agree with you big time that he certainly was someone that his performance kind of did fly under the radar, but I think that happening gave a lot of shining light to people that were showing their I'm gonna falcon this,
Goods.
that were showing their moves at yeah,
my
close.
one.
You know what? I'm a dad. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm with it.
Well, Dan and Jesse have both been using this term flying under the radar. And we've had some great European players that haven't had much of a spotlight do pretty well. But when over probably the last 5 years, if you were to ask me what Melee player has flew under the radar, there's one name that comes to my mind, and Dan smiled because he knows that I've created the perfect segue.
Mewtwo King's really good, but I don't think
Shut
enough
up! Don't ruin my moment. J-Mook has flown
I
under
was
the
gonna
radar
What
for
about Spark?
so long. So J-Mook, for those of you that don't know and have randomly seen a random person that you've never heard of get top 8 in the loser chance qualifier and then
You ever
get, I
catch
think,
these
ninth
hands?
in the actual event, right? Is that what he
Yeah,
ended up getting? 13th he got. So
Still a good
J-Mook's
showing.
from Central New York. Incredible Sheik main. Incredible Sheik main. He was
absolutely.
young. He was he was the best player you've never heard of.
Absolutely.
And we all knew this. Anyone who had been to Central New York and played against him was like, "Oh my goodness, he's always like destroying all these people." I was like, then he went to Omega or an Omega, and it was like Long Island. It's like, all right, how's he gonna do here? And he gets like top 8. He almost reversed Rio's Triff. He has other incredible showings, and Tri-State is now like, who the hell is J-Mook? So Tri-State starts to get this. We go. It was the online nightclub, and we were talking before. This is where Jesse first heard of J-Mook.
Oh yes.
We come to this random net play
Poor
event.
Ginger.
Some random dude to these other people. J-Mook comes in, he gets like second or third, destroys Ginger, and goes in. And now people are like, wait a minute. And then Cody, who's got a lot of, is like, yeah, J-Mook's insane. Like, you guys should have known who he is. And
Yep.
J-Mook and Cody would sometimes play on stream a little bit. but he's always someone who's been like very, very good. And like Cody said, he's got like top 20 player potential. He's like that good. And
He's just so fast. I
he's
mean,
so
he
fast.
makes fast sheiks look slow. I mean, I'd like to think of it as Plup and then Jmook. I there's just he's so fast as
he
Sheik.
he is. We played it's been a while now. It was sometime in Slippy and we played and I was like, what am I supposed to do in these situations? And it's like, he's just so fast.
He was incredible. I can still even remember I played him at a local back in, or no, it was a regional, but like a big regional. Kage showed up and like a lot of Canadian players showed up to that tournament. I remember I think he got second, only barely losing to Kage. But at that time even he was still incredibly talented. I played him in pools and like I was so dog shit. That literally after the set he was just like, hey, just as a heads up, like I know you're a Falco player and whatnot, because this is back when I was focusing more on Falco than Falcon. And he was like, I know you're a Falco player. When I'm doing this, you should be shine stalling. Like don't immediately waste your double jump, or don't immediately go to this angle, because I did this over and over and you didn't pick up. It was almost like immediately he knew like this scrub that actually does care about the game clearly is not picking up on something, so I'm going to give him insight. It's very similar to like the Diz Kid Boogie. People that like will maybe hate on him because like he's an Ices player or whatever the hell, all that
He's a
stupid
nice
garbage.
dude.
He is one of the nicest people of all time, and he will tell you how to beat him because he wants you to have an equal advantage. And Jmook gave that exact same vibe to me, even though I met Jmook first and then interviewed Diz on my old
Yeah.
show. So it's like a lot of these players that do this type of stuff, I feel that just only helps boost more of like a, you absolutely should have heard of this person. I
Mhm.
mean, these guys have such talent. I think
Yeah.
Drew, you said it as well. Like Cody's played him on his stream a couple times. I guess like for us, it kind of came as a no surprise to like see him play this good. I guess I
Oh,
was a little just to see on land performing this well,
he
given like this is one of the biggest tournaments
yeah.
now.
He 3-0'd Kalamazoo.
Hmm.
He he came back. No, he 3-2'd Kalamazoo. It was a reverse
Oh.
3-0, I think.
Oh, okay.
Reverse 3-0. He won 3-2 against Gatsu,
Yep. That was a 6 set. I did see that one.
and he beat Sora as well. Let me see who else he beat to get to here. He beat Kem. That was a good set. That
Yeah.
was on
Kem is
stream.
sick. I love Kem too. Shout outs
He
friend of the
beat
show.
he beat Crudo, who had previously beaten Mewtwo King earlier in the day,
Hmm.
and he had a good set with Red that he won.
I love that Red's back in the scene too.
Yeah,
That's another really cool
but
one.
that's someone that like is very near and dear to us, and to see him do so well. Because again, this is like one of his first real big things. He's on the compendium, like second or third on the compendium to get flown out to Genesis.
Is he
Yes,
really?
Genesis
He
8.
is.
Oh wow. We gotta
Him
get
and
him in there.
Aklo.
He is on
Yeah.
there. He's like pretty high up in it. You have to like get through all of the people. You can't just immediately contribute to the person you want.
Ain't
Which
that fun?
it's the
That's annoying.
money's yeah. I guess there's part of it. That looks like you
Yeah.
can start backing him. Now that
Good.
I look at it,
We need to, listen, guys, all funds that go to the Patreon this month will directly go to to Jmook. I will make
Bring
that
it
a
to
deal.
Genesis 8. I mean, how cool
Jmook
would
to
that be?
Jen. Jmook to Jen. That kind of wait.
he like
Genesis 8. I don't want it to that would sound kind of
he like he's someone that like could get anywhere from like 25th to like 7th.
I could see, I don't know, man.
Like
If he plays
he
on
could
as good as he
he
was.
plays on. There's like it's so good. But again, and this is one of those things, and I mean, I just kind of this kind of me in my head wrapping up, and just because the reason like Jesse interviews all these people is everyone has such an awesome story to tell.
Yeah.
We can spend all this time talking about Jake and Jesse and all this. But then we could probably spend an entire episode talking about Sora and his trip to the US and having
Yep.
Australian Melee be on the map. Or Sock, who's also from Australia, who did well and was taking sets on people
Yep.
and beat
It was
Master
verified
Beard.
on Twitter with less than 1,000 followers. Good for you,
I
Sock.
saw that today.
That's wild.
I saw that today.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
Melee
like,
just keeps winning.
like Frenzy, who was like never like in the shadows of some of the other European players, still doing insanely well. Europe like really holding their own.
Absolutely.
Ice coming seemingly out of nowhere, doing super well. Triff playing well. Triff got 4th. Polish, another Peach, outplaced him.
Yeah.
Like Lod got 9th too. Like it's so like it's so awesome, and
Make it make
especially
sense.
make it make sense. But like there's so many you could go through. You can go through, and that's the beauty of this all. You could go to literally every person in this top 24 pro record, anyone who made it through Smash World Tour. You know, a lot of these people qualified from other events. How did they get into this situation? And I kind of think, and that's kind of what I can't really speak for you, but that's something that I see Jesse. That's kind of what you're at. You know, everyone has a story.
I
for what
wanted to
they
be there
do.
so bad for the content.
Yeah.
Right?
So bad. So another player that I'll shout out because I clipped a sick combo of Mech, a Captain Falcon player, just stomping the ever loving snot out of KJH in the losers last chance qualifier, LCQ. By the way, we forgot to mention how Jmook had to go through LCQ first before playing in pools.
Yeah, he
So
had
he
to
had
like
to play a lot of extra
top
melee.
8, like a regional, like he had I mean like Ginger acts. It's like a major. It's like a diet major. It didn't have like the super top people.
Right.
No, he
Right.
beat Jmook. Jmook also beat Toussaint. I said he beat Jmook. So he beat Toussaint as well in the bracket
Or
of people
Toussaint.
that he beat. Yeah.
Damn.
But
I
yeah.
Mech, I want to give props to because never heard of the player. Want to talk to the player. We're gonna get Mech on the podcast soon. I
Get Mech
think
on
there's
the
Reach
there
out to
seem
his
be some.
DMs.
There seems to be some. Well, yeah, because he threw a little award. I don't know how Reddit works, but I got an award from Mech, and I was like, oh, you're essentially giving an award to yourself. Hey, no shame. I was like, thanks for the award. You wanna come on the podcast?
Come on the show, you know?
You want to become a friend of the
That's
show?
Come
that's
friend of the
that's
show.
just kind of how it works because I'm just as excited to talk to somebody like Mac as I would be to Jmook or to Plup, who won Smash World Tour. So shout outs to Plup, the best player in the world, I guess, and forever and ever, amen. Here's something that I want to talk
What
to
up,
you
Ken?
to just for a brief minute. We can sort of look at this in a way where I don't think I've heard you two talk about significantly yet. Reacting to Nintendo. Maybe perhaps you did on an earlier episode, but Nintendo wants in on this whole competitive scene all of a sudden, out of the blue, seemingly. The truth is that Panda probably dragged them kicking and screaming into it somehow. Don't know how that works, but congratulations to Panda for getting an official Nintendo sponsored pro circuit for North America for 2022. Doing like a handful of events, maybe like 3 to 5 in some capacity, and then crowning a champion. When it comes to the Smash World Tour, their angle right now is that they're international. They brought in players from Oceania, from Japan, from Europe, from South America, Central America, and of course Canada and the United States. They brought in so many different players. We got to see, okay, how wild is it? I think there was only one Spacey in Smash World Tour top 8. Partially because Mango and the Cody, IBDW, I mean, and the stuff. But that's cool. I love seeing so many Peaches and Sheiks succeed. And I mean, Falcons didn't necessarily do super, super swell. But I mean, shouts to Wizrobe, placing second. That's a nice showing for him. But how is it going to work when there's going to be 2 circuits? Because Smash World Tour was not just for this year. They wanted to make this a thing permanently moving forward, make it bigger and better than ever next time around. So how do you see this going down? Because I sort of get the impression that one is going to get shadow disband in a way. I'm very nervous about there being like subtle vibes of let's just kind of put a pillow very slowly on top of Smash World Tour's face and press down until it
And
stops
just
moving.
focus on the other one.
I'll give mine real quick because Drew, you might actually have more insight than me, but I'll be totally honest. I didn't even know there's like a secondary circuit that's going to be running out of it. So truthfully, if you were to give me this information blind, like it somewhat is, because I knew about the first but didn't know two, I would just say, yeah, I agree. I think something is going to get a lot more attention than the other. And it's just going to lead to, a similar space that used to exist where, like, oh, if M2K is going to this tournament, I'm not going to, like, way back in the day when M2K is going to go to this tournament, probably going to go somewhere else. So I have a chance of winning or something like that. Like, it very well could turn into different spaces, different people going to different things because they want a better chance at it, or they want to make sure they fight against this person that's going to be there. I don't know. It definitely could create a conflict of scheduling, but maybe I'm entirely
It's what
wrong on
happened
how it's gonna work.
with Smash Summit 12 and the Smash World Tour just
Yep.
now. Like they were only a week apart. And originally I
Yeah.
thought that was cool until I found out
No,
that a
they're
lot of players were not
burned.
going to the other. Like I was like, oh,
Yeah.
aw.
What was it? There was 1 year that I think Evo, Shine, and SmashCon were in 4 weeks.
Busy
I think
August.
within 4 weeks, it was Evo. Yeah, I think it was Shine. It was 20. I think it was 2018
Okay.
because I think I had just gone to my first major, and then I was like, oh, let me like watch more. I'm like, no one's at SmashCon or something,
Yeah.
and so there was just way too much big things happening, and I mean, the way that Melee like events happen, usually like there's a big one a month or a little bit less. If you have two different tours going on, you're like already got to think like we have October's big house. You like already need to start casting your slots into those end times, or like Summit's gonna come in and Summit's gonna
Right.
take us out. Summit might take a spot anyways,
Yep.
but it's hard, especially a thing like Summit, because Summit guaranteed just has everyone there.
Yep.
That is hard. You don't not go to a summit. It's gonna be the biggest prize pool. You're gonna get you get like a couple grand for like coming in 13.
You're gonna have, I think we touched on this so early on, and it's a point that I'm shocked you're not making, but you're gonna have so much fucking fun.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everyone that
That's
goes there
like
talks
yeah.
about the experience of that tournament. Like
So
everyone's gonna
yeah.
choose that.
It's hard, and who knows? Like if it's gonna be like you have to go to this qualifying regional to get to this spot,
Shloop.
that's
I'll be there.
hard. Or especially if you get things that are like conflicting and it's like, oh well, HBox is going to this, so like I'm gonna be like a top 70 player and go to this one because I might be able to snag a spot. Should be weird. But then you also don't want both tournaments having like Smash and Splash 7
Right.
count as a qualifier for each thing, because then it's like then that makes things weird. But I don't know how that's gonna work. I know
Congratulations for qualifying for one of these two big tournaments.
for both
Real quick on
and
stream,
Summit
pick one.
somehow. like somehow Wizrobe like wins and he's like automatically in like 4 events now.
I mean, shit, that'd be actually kind of hype.
But
I'd be hyped for that. Like, oh,
but
you're telling me I don't got to pay nothing? I'm in this tournament because I won this tournament? Lit.
well,
You get your
here's the
twofer.
thing. There's also it's interesting, like even with Smash World Tour, like I get that someone was a week apart. I was kind of surprised to see, I would say, none of the top 3 there.
Yeah.
Like Mango, Zane, IBD, just because like it is at some point it's almost more for like growth of the scene is the wrong word, but it's like, hey, look at all this work Smash World Tour has done.
I know what you're
Like
getting at.
you top guys should maybe be there to support too. Because you look at this and it's like, wow. Like you said, Plup is the best player in the world now because he won the World Smash World Tour. It's like,
Okay, but let's remember we were talking about how hard it is to organize everything in your life to be able to afford to go to one event. Now do it weekend to weekend, back to back.
Yeah.
We're talking about top
Yeah.
players. Remember, we're not
make so
Fortnite
much
money people.
money.
We're not
Yeah.
Call of Duty
Make
money
so much
people.
more money at home streaming.
Exactly.
And
You're
I
right.
think, okay, so from what I understood, Zane has a lot of legitimate, he has family members that he's
Yes.
around enough
That
who
is
are
very
immunocompromised.
valid. I
Yes,
don't
and
want to
then
go to. I don't want to go to Florida now either.
and then IBDW after winning Smash Summit 12 is like,
Fair.
my hands hurt so bad. I'm gonna start physical therapy. I I can't do Smash World Tour. And then Mango said I'd say probably back in like
he's probably
September.
like,
He's like,
oh,
no,
yeah.
I'm not doing it. I told
Yeah.
Gamer, I'm not doing it. It's too close to Summit 12. Not doing it.
Yeah, and
And
then
so it's
maybe
rough.
it's just hard when at that point I don't know who booked over who. Probably Summit booked over Smash World Tour, to be honest. Actually, I feel
I
like
feel like
Smash
they
World
plan a
Tour
lot more
Finals
of their
wasn't.
stuff out.
I
Yeah.
feel like Smash World Tour Finals wasn't announced for a while.
No, it wasn't. They just said it was going to be in December
It's gonna be in
sometime.
December,
So
so maybe that's on them. But like,
it's
that's the
tough
thing. Like,
breaks.
are you gonna do that with? Because Summit's gonna happen somewhere, and then Smash World Tour, and then Panda Circuit, hoping that Panda Circuit goes well and people after like there's also that worry is like is Nintendo just gonna mess it up and then everyone shows up to the first one and it's like super vanilla without being able to add hardware things and then
And also the biggest tournament of all time in 2022, the Ludwig tournament.
Yep, that's the other thing I know that's going to hopefully pop off.
And Poke Evo.
Jesus. On that
my,
note,
my favorite moment, my favorite thing was everyone just tweeting like, "Please, Pokemon, best of 5, top 64."
it would be sick.
So
It would be sick.
funny.
I don't know.
The thing that I ironically, I have the most faith in the Ludwig tournament because Aiden, very good TO, Slime knows what he's doing. Ludwig's got money. Nick's cool guy. They're going to be just fine. It's going to be super cool.
True. I mean, he literally said that in his video about switching to YouTube is that he wants to do $1 million Smash tournament. And I'm like,
He said he was
that's
going to
so
do
sick.
another subathon.
He
He's
wanted
thinking
to
about
do
it. He's
another
thinking about it.
subathon because
he did
he
at Twitch. He was thinking about it.
back at Twitch,
Yeah.
but YouTube is giving him that shmoney where he can stream less. He doesn't have to put in as many hours. He could do other stuff like traveling to New Hampshire to do another episode of The Yard, and then he wants to be able to throw $1 million into running a tournament and not immediately regret it. He has up to like 10 people on payroll now, so can't just throw away that much resources and get nothing in return.
Probably. It's probably around
I'm
that.
not that far into The Yard. I'm like,
Yeah, it was. I heard it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 people. There's at least an editor or two, and
I forgot that is,
obviously Slime and Nick and
Slime,
Aiden.
Nick.
Yeah,
We had Nick when we had Nick on the show. It was that afternoon he announced that he was leaving BTS. Like it was like that hot.
hot off the press.
Literally hot off. Let's talk to the boy.
But I guess it is that many people. Same.
Yeah.
He's got that.
He's the brand. He is the brand. And then
We're
this
very
mobile
lucky,
merch.
by the way. I know we all are a little jealous sometimes. Okay, only because I say to myself, he's the same age as me. So what am I doing with my life? And then I go, he doesn't have kids. That's okay. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. It ends there. But we all wish that of all the Smash people, if you do content creation, you can't help it. This was a fun topic as well. And we might not have enough time for this, but like, for me, when I see other people doing well in the content sphere, I always get slightly jealous just at first. It's like that emotion thing that pops up. Did you know that you react with your emotions first a lot of the times? You sort of have to learn how to curb. Anyway, the point is that I have made a very continued effort at not actively grudging or jealousing, but pride is a real thing in the content creation game. We all know that to a limited extent here. If we don't earn lots of money or lots of clout, all we have left is pride. So it's very difficult not to immediately put all of your identity into something that you create being topped by other things, by other people. If it makes you guys feel any better, I feel those feelings too. But
Well,
I've tried my best to curb them.
I'm still Dan's in charge of the Patreon. I'm waiting for him to Venmo me my 40K for this month. You know.
Dan, what are you doing?
Yeah, no,
I
that's
asked
my
him if
bad.
he could get me into
Pull
the
that out of your
account.
crypto and give it to Drew.
I think I sent it to DrewNG and not DrewNG. I might have to
Sometimes they
call
get the
Venmo.
fake names.
Yeah, it's all these different ads and shit. But we are definitely getting close to that wrap up hour here. It has been quite a fun time getting to talk to you here, Cypher, Jesse, Bottom of Smash Mountain podcast host, creative executive director. I realized the other day I could start calling myself that, an executive director or producer of the podcasts that I've done on my resumes to make myself sound cooler. So if you haven't started doing that, make sure you do that. But regardless,
I'm talking yelly person at
talky yelly big boy.
You bring in the people, Drew. I mean, people want to hear you talk about stuff.
He is the RuneScape holder of life here. I need you.
I'll save this for another time.
No, wait. You had me at the baker.
I was thinking about. I'm like, it's not. I have some content in my head. I'm in the way early stages of it, so I can't really say. But
No
you could be in
spoilers.
on the ground floor if you do patreon.com/thebakersdozen. You could be on the ground floor of all.
You could be on this beautiful wall.
Wall of pastry pals with our other Patreon supporters.
Bub, amazing. Nijia.
One of those is a very good college friend. The other one, I just couldn't figure the word. The other one is related by blood.
Is DrewNG Jr. Well,
No.
not Junior. No, wait.
Not my son.
DrewNG 2.
My brother. He's not my son.
DrewNG 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Hey, family members and homies helping out is always super appreciated. It's their way of saying to you, I love you. I'm not listening to your shit. I am going to support financially. Stop asking me to listen.
It's like I don't know if you guys are Adventure Time fans, but one of my favorite quotes from that show of all time is homies help homies.
Homies help homies.
Homies help homies. But for now, speaking on helping the homies out, Cypher, one last time, if the people can't read the things that should be under your name there, where can the people find you? Where can the people listen to you? And take the time to tell to you. I tried to use as many T's in there.
If you want, you can try to point to the little thing. I've heard it's
you could try.
Hard.
Drew's not very great at it.
I've heard it's kind of hard. Oh,
there you go.
Let's go. You can find me on twitter.com/cyfer003 for myself, or if you want to follow twitter.com/bsmpod, you will get told through those tweets that an episode is live, that's up. I post clips because I know that most people will only see the clip. They'll never actually watch the full episode, but at least they got a little taste, a little bit of something. And then you can go to youtube.com/c/bsmpod to subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to watch me talk with the guest, we usually have the cameras up and rolling and it looks fantastic. Shout out to all the people who helped me with the overlays and such. And then you can also go to patreon.com/bsmpod to support me financially if you so choose. You can be a producer of the show because that's what I refer to my Patreon supporters as, because I want them to help me shape the content that I make in a way that they want to see it go. So if you're going to give me money, I want you to be able to call some shots with me. I still, have the 51%, if you will. I still get to make the ultimate call, but I'm going to listen to you a lot more if you're throwing money.
I don't know. I mean, there's a $1,000 tier. They might get that edge if they make it there.
It might turn into a 50-50.
There are plans for the $1,000 tier. If a whale ever comes through, the reason why I tease with actual plans in there is because I have ideas, but you guys
want to figure out what it is? Patreon, BSM Pod.
It'll be a long time before a whale pulls through. They're all subscribed to, Hungry
They got
Boss
their
on
they got
Twitch.
their tier 3 subs.
Yeah, they're all subscribed to XQC right now. But biggest thank you again for coming on. It was a real pleasure to get to talk to you. I know I hit you up in the DMs even before starting this podcast because I saw you starting back up, and I was like, hey, I've got some stories to tell. It could be fun to do that. But then when Drew and I started getting into it, you were quick on the draw to even, see that we were doing it. And then we started trading DMs and whatnot. We ended up on yours. You end up on ours. And I don't think this will be the last time either. I'm sure our paths are going to cross again. We have great like-minded ideas and things like that to come. Again, you can find them on Spotify. You can find them on Twitter. You can find them on
Podcasts.
Patreon.
There are so many podcast platforms I'm on. Everything except Stitcher Premium because that website sucks. But I'm on. I'm most everywhere else.
Not sponsored by Stitcher Premium. Go fuck yourself, Stitcher. But everything else, y'all are pretty swell. So thank you again so much for coming on. Make sure if you guys enjoyed this one, I'm sure Cypher might not comment on his own, but leave some comments, leave those likes, listen to us on Spotify, sub to the Patreon again, and we love you very much. We're going to be taking one more week off here because we got the holidays. So this will be...
I'm getting boosted the day we normally record.
I got my booster. I don't want to take my sweater off, but I literally got boosted today. So get your boosters. Go get it. The government does not give a shit about what they're putting into your arm. Or no, they give a shit about what they're putting into your arm. They don't give a shit about what's going on around you. If they cared, they'd be looking at your phone more. But again, thank you for coming on. Go get your vaccines. Happy holidays to everyone. And we will see you on episode 11 in the new year, 2022. So peace out. Have a good night. Bye.